Welcome everyone to Startup Shuk. We are joined today with Dalali from Oversight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I'm interested in your company because I found it on LinkedIn. We haven't met before.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that I invited is usually like friends of friends and people who I know before. But I found your company and I found it very interesting because it's in the realm of VR, and we have a lab here in Reichman. It's called Me Lab, and they have a lot of work with VR as well. So I thought, hey, this is quite interesting. And you also have like background at the Technion and in the IAI and robotics. So I'm very, very interested in those fields as well. I studied mechanical engineering at the Technion before I transferred here to computer science. And I transferred because they have more entrepreneurship facilities in Reichman, but like my heart is like an entrepreneur. Sorry, an engineer. I like to build stuff. So let's talk about you now. I want to hear like who's Gal and what's your story, what's your childhood, and what led you to your path now.
Great. So yeah, I'm correct. I'm an aerospace engineer, but before that, actually, as a child, I love like playing with mini scale UAVs. Right, quadcopters weren't a thing at the time, so I was actually enjoying building and flying. Let's call it mini copters, helicopters. Yeah, so this was where I come from. Like this was my hobby. I wasn't very tech guy when I was a child, but I was like very hands-on. I grew up north near the Sea of Galilee, near Tiberias.
Close to Haifa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I went to the Technion, also close to my parents' house, and everything was close there. And I love the city of Haifa, so it's also a consideration. So I had like the military and regular. I was a tank crewman in the army. Again, no relation to tech whatsoever. And once I finished the army, I immediately went to my SATs near the before military ends. I immediately got to an aerospace faculty there, just because I was like into aerodynamics. I was enjoying seeing planes flying. Like being in the airfield was like a Luna Park for me.
So we got that in common, man. My grandfather used to call me plane boy because I'm so obsessed with planes. I got like books about turbines when I was like, I don't know, 11 something. I don't understand any of it. I just bought the books. But yeah, I'm a big fan of planes.
It's the same as the first day when we come, like the first, you have like the initial talk, whatever, with the dean and everything, and he said, okay, if someone here enjoys planes, aerodynamics, stuff like that, forget what you knew. You're gonna hate this degree. That was his first word, because it's gonna become very mathematical and less like hobby oriented.
Fluid dynamics and all of this, man. It's
but actually, started Technion. Been there. It's like first 2 years like very general courses, mathematics, stuff like that. But towards the later part of your degree, you started to get into your major, like aerodynamics and even space and satellites traffic, stuff like that. Very interesting story. And during my third and my fourth year, I was participating. There was like a final project, right? So at the time, there were a competition organized by the AUVSI. It was like a huge organization for robotics, of building and participating in the US in, let's call it drone oriented for doing like different missions, like search and rescue, video analytics, detect of targets, stuff like that.
It's a competition to build drones.
Exactly.
Okay.
But at the time, a drone was a plane, and like 15 kilograms plane, doing like 30-40 minutes of a mission, including the takeoff and landing done automatically, and waypoints navigation, and all kind of small missions, and each one of them gives you like a certain score, and everything at the end, everything adds up to a general score. And not only that, they're also judging the team, okay, like how the preparation was done, how the safety requirements were met, stuff like that. So as a student, like third year student, we started at third, me and another friend, because it was the first year of the project that the Technion adopted. By the way, in mechanics, at the time there was the Formula 1 craziness, Formula 3, I believe. Also building a car there.
Yeah.
And we did the the autonomous plane.
My friends are in the Formula One team.
Yeah?
Yeah, Formula Technion.
So that's still ongoing, I believe.
Still going, yeah.
This project was actually like involving also the electrical department also, like 2 or 3 students from there, but mainly aerospace engineers. And we also actually built the entire UAV from ground up, like building the molds for composite materials. We got a donation of glues and composite materials. I actually built everything from scratch. It was pretty nice, but the bread and butter was to actually gain the score. So doing the specific missions, which all of them has like a bits of software in it. And that was like, again, third year was like me and a friend were joined to the fourth year. They actually got courses for that. We got like, they invented the course for us and they gave us a score for this specific course just for us to learn the material and to actually also participate in the following year. We started there, we built our first UAV. The time it was like the entire, autonomous pilots and stuff like that was very early. I'm talking about 2013 actually. Very early, no knowledge at all, like a bunch of open source projects. And started there, we actually did some flight tests here in Israel. It was fun, last for a year. And then we flew to the US. The competition was had at a Navy base, forgot his name, near DC. Now, first year we won 5th place. It was pretty great for a company that is first time in this competition. We're like 40 companies coming from different universities like Cornell, MIT. So that was us. Second year, by the way, since we're aerospace engineers, and we built the entire plane again. We improved it. It looked totally different. I learned a lot of lessons from the first year. And the second year we participated in the project, we won 2nd place. I believe Cornell was the first one.
Was MIT in the competition as well?
I can't recall. I remember them being in the first one in 2013. Don't know what's happened in the following year. But these are well-funded groups. Yeah, they got like an autopilot cost like $40,000 at a time, and we were coming with like an open source project called Autopilot at the time, still going on. Autopilot, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was our first.
Familiar with that?
Yeah, drones. I believe Autocopter wasn't like available at the time. It wasn't like it was Autoplane.
Yeah. Like you had to build everything from balsa wooden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we built like a couple of mock-ups because we didn't want to crash eventually.
Yeah.
So we did like the entire risky missions such as autonomous landing and stuff like that with mock-ups, and then went to the full scale. And yeah, once that done, by the way, during my 3rd and my 4th year, I mainly was oriented towards the project. So fun fact, I didn't like go to lectures and stuff like that. I was just enjoying being in the lab and building the plane, like doing everything from building the wings itself using composite materials to achieving the software bits and go to flight experiments.
I can relate with that very much. I was involved in my final project, which is supposed to be in 4th year, but I was checking out a friend who is working in the autonomous robotics lab in the mechanical building. So I was just visiting him. He's working on his final project. He's like in the 4th year. And I heard their conversation with the professor, Elon Rimon, if you know. He's discussing about an end effector for a gripper. And I suggested like a different solution. And Elon, the professor, just told me, hey, you work with him now. So what? Okay. I'm in my 2nd year, but all right, no problem. So I ended up working on my final project in my 2nd year, and I never gone to class since. I did, once in a while come to class, but I'm lost. I basically just worked on my final project in that year before I transferred to Reichman. So it was good. I think I managed to do my final project before transferring. Yeah, so that's nice.
So another fun fact, I was living at the Canada dorms at the time. It was like
2 kilometers away.
Exactly. So I was thinking, if I'm going to climb it, so better like go to the lab and not the class.
Right. Which lab? In the aerospace? In the top?
The aerospace, yeah. It was like a shop, not really a lab, but more like a shop of, building with balsa woods and stuff like that, planes. Yeah. And we made it the project room.
Yeah, I've been in that lab. I built a drone with, I forgot his name, but maybe you can mention the technician who's guy, or maybe it's changed.
Dalali at the time, maybe.
Maybe it changed. But yeah, it was fun. I had like an aerospace course in the mechanical degree. Anyways, so tell me about your Can we talk about the projects you did with AI, or is it like classified?
No.
Or maybe some parts of it you can talk about, right?
Yeah. So in the, I believe in the second year, near the maybe the beginning of the third, I actually started working at the II. I was, doing the regular course of interviews, stuff like that. And I got to a specific person at the time called Avi. Avi was running a team, a dedicated team for doing like mini scale projects for demonstration purposes. Like we're not going to do products, we're going to do our pure R&D. Based on mini drones, mini planes, stuff like that, and we're gonna basically do everything from quick. There's like small team of 10 people, kind of like a skunk workers of engineering department in the II. And we basically build bunch of mock-ups, bunch of things that actually fly. I had, I've been doing some cool stuff there, like. I built like a 3D printed drone, like a UAV, like a plane, 2 meters wingspan, and it was 2016, I believe. So it's like first thing that actually fly. Also been like kind of like a crazy tank with rotors that's supposed to drive and exactly jump over obstacles and stuff like that. It's pretty fun building. You kind of like touch everything, every technology there is, like 3D print, mechanics, control, video. So I've been there for almost 3 years. Fun as hell. But, every engineer, every software developer eventually wants people to basically use his product.
Yeah.
He wants to build a product that actually serves someone and make an effect on some specific crowd or person or whatever. So I was staying there, I believe, another year after graduating, and then I had a proposal from I'll call it a friend of mine, also from the Technion, but he was actually a lecturer, one of the courses. He was opening a startup at the time called Aerial Guard. It was again 2016, something like that. And Aerial Guard was a pretty young startup, just won like $30,000 in innovation challenge in China, I believe, something like that. No clients yet, but drones started to becoming a thing, and they were doing like autonomous solutions for drones, like specifically detect and avoid kind of missions for, okay, I'm a construction, I want to scan my turbine, I will send my drone, but I want the operator will not, I want it to be like idiot-proof, don't have the possibility to destroy the turbine. So we build kind of small solutions for detect and avoid purposes, oriented for specific cases, but also stuff that we're dealing with autonomous navigation. Okay, like DJI call it today active track. Okay, I'm going to track a person and the drone will navigate by itself. So that was like, it was a gamble because I was leaving like the II at the time, going to a startup when I was like 2 founders and me. That was the company. And it actually was in Haifa, in Matam. We had an office there. I was living in Tel Aviv, doing like the train ride almost every day.
The III office is in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, it was in the airport city, near the Ben Gurion airfield. So it was literally the best time of my life because I was evolving so fast because I was need to learn everything by myself. Every day has its own challenges.
This is Aerial Guard.
Yeah, Aerial Guard. Small startup, no resources, nothing, but eager clients. We started getting clients, especially in the US. And finally, finding yourself, okay, there's demand from the other side. It's not just you doing like R&D.
Yeah.
You need that thing. So finding yourself learning, and you're learning fast.
Was it mostly hardware that you work on there, or software as well?
Mainly software. We didn't do like hardware. We just used commercial off the shelf, stereoscopic vision.
What's that exactly?
It's a camera.
With depth of field, like 2 cameras.
Exactly. 2 fields with a specific baseline, simulate how the eyes perceive depth. And it gives you an accurate depth up to a certain level. It depends on the specific, but a couple of meters. That gave us the ability to not just like detect that there's an obstacle, and also like describe the obstacle and to build a way, like a waiting function. Today it's an AI, but the waiting function, okay, how I'm gonna basically attack this obstacle according to different parameters. What's my battery? Can I climb?
Right.
What's my my altitude? Can I decrease it, or whatever. I'm too close to the ground. What's behind that obstacle also, like a set of parameters that got into machine, and the machine will tell you, okay, this is how I want the drone will navigate.
Makes
And
sense. And how would you describe the object? Back then, we don't have as good of an AI as we do today. I'm guessing you built like your own machine learning model to like describe the object. You get the depth field output from the stereoscopic cameras, and then you probably like feed that to a machine learning model.
Exactly. That, and also another like different inputs. For example, as I mentioned, like the drone energy.
Right.
What's the drone capabilities? For example, how agile it needs to be for this specific drone. How's the maneuverability of the vehicle, and gets the the depth image.
Right.
It's called a high-end point cloud, if it makes sense. Like points scattered in space representing the scene, and you just search for the available option for you, like the best available option for you. There's probably always a couple of solutions that you want to start, explore. And if it's too complicated, then the whole navigation engine becomes really, really slow. Like, okay, let's do it step by step. Let's take it, slow, and let's explore this path and see what's happening here. Let's say it like a forest, right? And there's a bunch of leaves, and you know that in the other side of this obstacle, there's probably going to be more trees.
Yeah.
We got into like a dead end, then it means, okay, let's go back. It's also an option. I know exactly where I came from. I know the route that I did. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from another.
Have you seen this video from China? They have a swarm.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's crazy.
Amazing, like 5 drones.
I think it was like there was like 5 drones, but also like 2 rows, so maybe
Yeah.
like around 10. You just go through the forest,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
man, it's so crazy and it's scary.
It's
in the
scary.
future. Yeah.
Don't know if it's real, to be honest. Like, if it's not.
Why would they fake it?
I don't know. But it looks amazing, yeah.
Yeah. It's. Are we there yet in Israel?
I believe drones became more like a person in the loop tool, let's call it like that. There are specific stuff, for example, munitions, stuff like that. They're doing like the entire like end game by themselves. But mainly it's like there's a person in the loop, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of drones being used in commercial drones being used in war in Ukraine and also in Israel. What do you think we can do to improve? Because obviously this is not something we should be doing in the long term. DJI is being used a lot, and they stick 3D printed droppers and carriers hooks to drop grenades or whatever in the enemy, and also sometimes just for reconnaissance. But I feel like we can do better than that, both in Ukraine and in Israel. What do you think would be the cheapest and easiest MVP to create so that we have our own proprietary solution? For example, we buy our own FPV drone, for example, and maybe create like a more, what do you call it? It's the communication is like encrypted so that people cannot like jam our comms. What do you think is the cheapest way to create our own solution?
So there are, it's funny because like the Ukraine war was like, eventually, growing a lot of technologies, and time is pushing, and eventually the great solution that actually gives the answer on the field is eventually like commercial of the shelf stuff that basically were oriented towards military use. Like for example, FPV drones. They weren't like munitions at first, but now they're having a great success. Which again, it started like, okay, it's the same communication, same drone, same everything, just like let's connect it a tiny server with grenade on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's done. You have a weapon. And the IDF started to see that happening and started to see all the hype around it. And there's also DJI drones now operating a lot in Gaza Strip and in other regions, and they start looking for solutions. So they're now released. I believe, I don't know if they released or they're gonna release. Like it's a request for information or RFI for a tiny drone, tiny little thing on top of it. Like we're gonna equip the IDF with 20,000 drones, and we need a production line for it, and we need a company that will give us the.
This is DJI asking.
No,
IDF asking DJI.
Not DJI, like
Some company.
Israeli bidders.
Okay.
And that's pretty huge because like
So it's like a government contract.
exactly.
Okay.
And this is it's something in between because like if you're gonna take the large defense contractors, for example, Elbit and IA and stuff like that, I don't know if they're gonna go for it.
It's too small for them.
It's too small, but it's a say for them. Like, okay, I want to be in this part of business. Eventually, like a huge defense contractor building an FPV racer, the margin of
Profit, the ROI is very small.
very very small. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not like a good business decision. But and for the small companies, it's kind of okay. Ooh, it's too big. 30 company startup, how build a production line of 20,000 drones per year, for example. It's something that I don't know if that's the numbers, by the way, but again, it's something in between.
So do you think there's like a gap in the space where someone can go in and fulfill this need by the army?
Yeah, for production, like top grade purposes like the IDF ones, yes, I believe so. That's why you see all these, little technologies such as like plain FPV racers just shining.
Do we already have those companies fulfilling the demands of the contracts that you mentioned?
I'm not sure. I just heard about a small startup company. What's small? Like yesterday was established, right? And they raised $20 million, I believe, from Sequoia. Like first, this was the pre-seed just for taking the FPV drones in Ukraine and monetize them. Like basically build I don't know, software like system on models, like a chip or whatever that will able to be like the common brain to operate like plain, simple, stupid drone.
But these are still off-the-shelf drones, like
Exactly.
with autopilot and all of this.
Because it works. It's like gives the answer on the field, but eventually you want the like technological edge. It's not always on the
What exact software are they adding, if you know?
video tracking capabilities, end game capabilities for actually hitting the target.
So probably the companies that can fulfill the answer to the question I asked before, the solution that we can get to answer this demand from army both in Ukraine and in Israel and in other countries, like having war that drones can give an edge, is to use off-the-shelf solutions and basically fit them with technologies that aid in reconnaissance, tracking, and payload delivery.
Yeah, and we're mainly talking about offensive application, but also for defensive. Like for example, now we have the UAV problem. I hear that complaints that like for a couple of dozens of dollars of drone of I don't know Shahed a UAV that Hezbollah was launching all the time, we basically fire a couple of hundreds of dollars or millions of dollars of rockets to basically eliminate that.
Yeah.
So there's also like the budget aspect here. You want a working solution and you want it to be cheap.
I think in the future, most aerial warfare will be fought by smaller drones. We've seen Ukraine literally zip tying a wood stick on their drones to like jam the propeller of a Russian reconnaissance drones,
Yeah.
UAV, the bigger one, like the Israeli, what do you call it, our big ones. Yeah, it's crazy. I think in the future, drones are going to be smaller and they're going to be more powerful, faster,
Cheaper.
and cheaper.
That's the key word here, cheaper. Because eventually, if you're doing something simple on the other side, you need to have like a simple answer to it. It's not. I don't believe it's a question of technology anymore. Because it's like there are solutions for counter drone solutions, but they are very expensive.
How do you see this changing the political landscape of war? Because right now I feel like some reason why wars are lasting very long is because of the collateral damage that it causes, and both sides get more reason to keep blaming the other side. And right now, for example, with the war in Ukraine and in Israel, we have civilians dying. And in the future, if we can have a more targeted, access to who we want to eliminate, there will be less and probably none collateral damage. You've seen those videos of the small drones with like 5 grams of payload, but a direct attack to the head and the person is eliminated.
No, but even today, this weekend was like tremendous technological intelligence success of there is collateral damage. But I believe the attacking side also doing if more or not, it's also doing the considerations about the collateral damage, who's going to be, finding his death out of, and this, I'm not going to want to go into politics, but eventually this in the international law of is it worth it or not attacking this kind of major terrorist, collateral damage are accepted at a manner. Like, regardless, I think war is an accelerator, let's call it like that, for technology companies, especially in these times where there's an option. There's no need for experiments. It's already there.
Right.
And you can try your technology, and if it works and you can make it better, of course, make it production ready and everything. There's there's a specific term called test readiness level, I believe, like TRL. There's TRL 9, which is basically battle proven. So it's like if your solution works, and we've seen right now a lot of defense companies that not only supports Israel, but also other companies in the world, and other companies which are not also in war, but they want to get themselves ready, or they're seeing what's happening, and they want to be prepared or take battle-proven technologies that did have a great success in somewhere else and put them in their system. So I believe it's in tech perspective, I believe it's opportunity here.
Yeah, there is a lot of technology to be obtained from the research in military.
Yeah.
Internet, ARPANET. 747 Boeing was actually a cargo plane before, but I think they dropped the contract and they turned it into commercial. So also from like cars, vehicles, we have so much technology. GPS was military.
Yeah.
So we cannot remove this part. So talk about your beginning of the journey and Oversight. What led you to found this company?
So after AirGuard, we stopped at AirGuard. At the time, I had a bunch of other, stuff happening. I was getting back to the IEI. The founders was fighting and didn't end like Facebook. So we basically closed the company 2 years after I joined. Heading back to IEI, but different division. And that was dealing with like, again, drones, stuff like that, but mainly software. It was like munition drones, small one, like 5 kilos.
What do you mean by munition drones?
Offensive drone that actually attack and has ammunition on top of them. Small one, but still can do a bit of a damage. And they have like different characteristics from other civilian drones. So they have like, let's call it improved video analytics software. Okay, how I'm gonna track the object, how I'm gonna keep it, all the way until I'll meet him. It's also like a bit of a control challenge. How do I control that drone in order to close the error towards the target? No matter if it's a delivery drone that actually need to drop a package inside a specific bullseye target, or I don't know, drone attack another drone. It's also basically they're the same control challenges, but different scale and different application. And after that, I became like I've been there a couple of months and started like I was getting like offers from outside. Like, okay, I wanna, because I had like a specific knowledge in like autopilots and open source autopilots, and at that time it was starting gaining like a traction, and I was receiving phones from unknown persons like, okay, I'm from Elbit, I'm from this, I'm from that, help me build my exotic vehicle or whatever. I'll build I will handle the screws and you will handle the software, stuff like that. And I was turning myself into a software contractor, handling robotics oriented application.
Are you mostly interested in software than hardware?
Yeah. At the time I was, again, when in like the beginning, I was loved working with my hands, still am. And also I was doing like CAD applications, like I'm very proficient in SolidWorks, for example. I love that software.
Hell yeah, I love it.
Yeah. But I found myself doing other stuff which are much more enjoying them, and eventually seeing stuff happening in the field. Giving services for a bunch of other companies, a couple of divisions at IAI, be it other small startups which are now have a great success. Some of them are not. But I was doing that like for 4 years. I actually got my first employees was coming from university. I was hiring like freshmen, help me with the job, like specific job oriented for drones. Again, not very suitable for any like software proficient, let's call it like that. And we started actually building a company that still lasts for today. A company called Austin. They're building building their own product, but they're also providing services, because doing that, they have like the best customer discovery in the world. They're very oriented towards drones and UAVs and stuff like that, mini UAVs, let's call it like that. But they also have many years of experience in that field, so they know what's the requirements, what's the product that's going to work. So they're now working on that. That's another venture. But 3 years ago, I actually had I was working at the PMO, again, as a software contractor, the Prime Minister's office, and one of the, not going to dive into details, but I had let's call it a vision that managing data in large scale need to be done in different manner than traditional screens. And by data, I mean like not data from my previous world, from drones, telemetry, videos, stuff like that, but also like regular data, for example, intelligence or GIS data, like map information, stuff like that. Should be a different way to handle data. Back to my military service, I was in a tank, and I was planning. Before you're doing an operation with the tank, you actually plan how you're gonna drive, how you're gonna, where you're gonna stand, stuff like that. So you're working in a concept called like a sandbox table, if you're familiar with this. Just playing with like in kindergarten when you have like a
like those movies where they have like, my army goes here and there's a map.
Exactly. And at the time I was like playing in the sand. I was loving it, but I wasn't understanding exactly what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
But in fact, like touching and feeling and doing interactive, being interactive with data, actually have much more retention to the user. About 75% more than traditional classroom exercises. So I was thinking, okay, let's do something which is way more interactive than what we're doing today. Not just watching telemetry on screen, or not just watching a PowerPoint for preparation of something else. Let's do something which is much more valuable to users. So again, I was starting at like grand command and control. That was the first vision. I was a tech guy and I was pretty naive. Jumping into that worlds of like enterprises and government, gaining the data from them, it's a problem. It takes time. It takes
legal issues.
Exactly, and it's not just okay. Let's knock on the doors and everything.
You probably need someone inside.
Exactly, there's a lot of ways to do that, but
yeah.
We weren't giving up on the the tabletop concept, but just oriented it to something else which we can bring value immediately. So we said, okay, why not like replacing PowerPoint for the purposes of mission planning? Because every mission, if it's like very military oriented a mission like a hostage rescue from Rafah or raiding a house or whatever, they all act the same. But also if we're going to take different homeland security event, or it's not like civilian events such as the Lag Bomber Pilgrim in Meron, it's basically the same. The preparation is done almost the same. The time's totally different. The scale is totally different. But the stages are basically the same. There's the planning stage. Then after that you simulate. You get, it's called like decision-making, training. And at the end there's the actual operation. Okay, this event happening. I need to search need to rescue the hostage, whatever. All are basically the same loop or the same pipeline.
Right.
So,
but don't you still need some data? For example, you mentioned you pivoted to mission planning instead of like showing data from the military intelligence because it's very bureaucratic and it's hard to get the data. But you still need some data with, like, for example, mapping. And I saw the video with Oversight, you have like very high definition, high resolution, like images of the buildings, the people. How'd you get those data?
So they're also coming from the customers, but there's difference in data. Like real-time data, it's much more sensitive, like intelligence data, stuff like that. But like maps, they're like, okay, if it's they're not like top secret.
It's easier to get
easier to get. So we started building this concept oriented for, we call it like the mission operating system, because we're trying to do all in the same system.
I love that.
Because it makes a lot more sense. Like doing, let's plan on this table, bring tremendous value to the users, not presenting a PowerPoint. You know what? Let's take an example. The Meron event sums up to 400 police officers, not just police officers.
Maybe you want to tell a bit about the Meron event for people who don't know.
So Meron is a place in Israel, in the northern part of Israel, where there's a righteous rabbi tomb there. I'm not going to go to what he did and stuff like that. But in a holiday called Lag BaOmer, there's a pilgrim of about 150,000 people in a single place in an evening. There's like 2 evenings there. And it's a huge event for the Israeli police because there's a lot of challenges. It's very small place, very narrow corridors. Everyone want to be in this place. It's on a mountain, so it's not that easy to control. And there's a lot of traffic arrangements need to be done. And also in Israel, different from other countries, the police here is the moderator of such events. Police is also responsible for the search and rescue teams, the fire department, the Holy Place Authority. They basically preparing the event. They're responsible for the event. That's why 2 years ago, I believe 2.5 years ago, it's an annual event. A car crash was occurred there during one of the peaks of the pilgrims or whatever, I don't know how to call it. And 40 people were dying there in a crowd crash. And the problem weren't that the fact that they're dying, that how are you now need to evacuate other people caught up in this scenario, or like, okay, the one that's injured, how are you going to rescue them? And that's the point where planning becomes effective in specific things like, okay, where I'm going to evacuate the injured people, to where, how I'm going to get there. Just like I need to give like my first aid to specific persons. And
Yeah.
You need to see it to understand. It's a huge event. I don't know how many people were there in the specific scene, but again, it's like 5,000 operational people, personnel, let's call it like that, police, fire, everything. And they all need to basically know what they're doing, know the entire plan.
Right.
I'm not going to say, okay, he's on this parking lot, doesn't care what's happening in the other parking lot. But they need like some kind of common language, especially when dealing with different organizations that never worked before or worked on specific events such as this. And going back to what I said, like the Meron event sums up to an event in a venue of like 400 commanders sitting in a beautiful venue after lunch. Okay, it's important.
Yeah.
After lunch, with a single coffee machine in the venue. Again, 400 police officers in a. They have like a PowerPoint slide, just one screen, one big screen, for 4 hours of presentation describing the operational plan.
It's a good nap.
Yeah, exactly. And no one is listening. And it's like 4 hours of discussions and talking, but it's not discussions that involving the crowd.
Okay.
Like someone is talking just, to let me tick mark that and that and that and
Check the boxes, we did this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And eventually they also made a PowerPoint slide. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you need like a PowerPoint slide that describe the entire event. And they basically take all organizations' slides and combine them all together. And they got like a 700 pages slides, okay, in a single presentation that no one reads. And when you ask the guys in charge, who's gonna read that? Gonna be for the committee if something will happen. But no one's, I'm not allowed to say that, but the thing is, they don't have the tools to basically train this kind of amount of people, and you need better tools for preparation.
Right. I saw in Oversight's demo, a lot of it is emphasized on interactivity. You use VR glasses. What are you, like Oculus or something?
So we mainly oriented for AR, but we are using VR as Oculus.
Right. And then a lot of it is like putting things there, putting things here. We can see what happens if we do this. We see what happens if we do that. A lot of it is in the visual. Do you have, because this is an operating system, do you have also like the logical side of things? For example, okay, let's tell the system that we're going to do event A. Event A involves this many people, and the place, the venue, we describe the time of day, maybe the season of the year, maybe because that's also affecting things, for example, in public holidays. And the system will like tell us, okay, so we need A, B, C, D, E, and these things might happen, E, F, G, H, I, and then we need to prepare for each scenario. Does it account for those as well?
Yeah. So there's as I mentioned, there's our plans of like the mission. Like there's the decision making, the planning stage, but also the training where decision making needs to be happen. And in that, we can simulate entire regions, events, let's call it like that. A simple civilian behaviors. Okay, like vehicle driving on roads, people are walking in the street, peaceful manner, and then something will happen. You can trigger it by yourself. If you're the user, you watch the people putting assets from the toolbox and basically control the scene. They can bring, I don't know, a barrier and block the traffic. Then, like, traffic jam happen, and then user will need to react because traffic jam is also
So it's like The Sims, but high res.
exactly in very high perspective, like commander perspective.
Right.
We're not talking like there's a lot of applications for like first person training where people get into a VR scene and gaining improving their own situational awareness, but we are different.
Like top-down view, you can see the city,
Top
drop
down
things.
and collaborative. One of the thing in Oversight that we build a system kind of like a Google Meet. It's an application meeting first. So it's not only like on-prem solution, we can also work in the cloud, and then you can get this, full telepresence with others because virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D gives you that value. So you can create, we call it metaverse, but we call it like Google Meet. I'm doing the same as I'm doing like a Zoom meeting with others, but with a lot more value. You can actually hear the person in the relevant location. You can see him as a weird figure, but you can actually see him.
They don't have to be in the same room with you, even though
No.
the table is here.
They can be somewhere else.
That's very cool.
And then you're doing the planning phase in a much more intuitive manner than share a PowerPoint, presentation and share data with your mouse cursor.
Yeah.
So it's totally different. There's the collaboration effect here that it's not only for you, it's for other guys, and it's also like a discussion. It's exactly like they're going to do in the field. And the fact that you're doing all in the same system, like planning and then training, and eventually operating, but whatever, it removes a lot of errors coming from the data because different systems has different data. Not everything is relevant to, let's take a specific example. Let's say I'm a SWAT team, whatever, and I want to examine a building. So first I need this 3D data, this photogrammetric data, understand, how the neighborhood is look like, where can I enter this building, how can I escape, where I'm going to put my people to cover my ass, sorry for that.
Yeah.
But also, for example, I want to know what's the height of this wall, for example, because I want to climb it. So this involves, you understand, like different systems. It's not same system getting for how I'm going to train, how I'm going to get my decisions, to the bitty bytes of how I'm going to, is that stone is really there. And the fact that we're trying to build all in the same systems, a system eventually brings, I'm not going to say brings value, but it makes sense. So that does that. And we thought, okay, but we have a geographic information system. It's a GIS system, right? It's you have a map, you have data, like specific assets that you put, they're static, they're simulated, whatever. Why not like throw real data on top of it? Okay, if I have GPS on cars, for example, I don't know if it's police cars, can I tag them inside the map and watch them in live? And not that, why not bring these two layers together, like the planning and the command and control part together, and see how the planning meets the operational side in real time. And the fact that you're doing this, you can basically take this layer and how it looks like, what I've been planning and how it looks like now, that brings a value to the user.
Police cars is one thing, but how would you get, for example, crowds in the real-time data and you can see like people flocking to a certain building, running in the streets?
First, we can connect to any kind of map locatable device. That goes without saying. It can be like a car, a phone, body cam, drone, whatever. We can throw it inside the map and see it in a much understandable perspective. But crowds, I don't have control on crowds, but I can simulate crowds, right? I can, we have a JS system. We know where the people is gonna be. We know what's the rules they're gonna behave according to. They will not climb buildings, of course, and let's put their region that they can walk in, and then we can basically create crowds and crowd behavior and panic effects. And let's say a terror attack now is happening in a specific region. People will react accordingly in the simulation.
Right, they will go somewhere else, and it might cause traffic there. maybe in the future, if it's not too expensive or too costly, we can use like a real-time drone who will like see people. And we have a lot of object detection LLMs these days, and we can like grab that people, create a boundary, stamp it on the model you already have at home, and we can like interact with the data that's coming from real time.
This is actually something we're doing right now. We have integrated with a company called Isotope. They're using off-the-shelf drones, but they're putting the software inside. And they also geo-reference the video, live video, with detections. So we're getting video with coordinates of detections. So my perspective as a drone guy, that I don't care about the drone. I care about the data, about the video he creates. Let's take drones, for example. Eventually, a drone operator will, sees the screen. And he sees like a video screen and a map, like a mini map in the side. And he sees the drone as a point. But the video doesn't have like a context to the map. You don't understand where the video was taken. You need to be like very professional operator just to understand what I'm looking at. And this context it's not for everyone. And in a 3D system, when you put a drone, take the video, don't care about the drone. You know where's the camera at, but you don't care about the drone. And just like throw the video on the ground as like kind of a blanket, right? Then it's make much more sense seeing it in a special manner and understand where the video at and maybe adjust the video accordingly. I don't care about, controlling the gimbal tilt and pitch and yaw, whatever. Let me just draw the blanket that I want on the ground and the drone will do whatever I want. And that's where we came into this understanding of, okay, let's manage the video, not the map locatable itself, not the drone itself. Let's manage the scene. And we believe that eventually has the potential to bring a lot more value, and especially where massive amounts of data will be thrown into a single system. Because there's a lot of research on, okay, how many screens can people digest? Because technology, specifically IoT data, multiply itself by numbers.
Yeah.
I believe every 6 years, I believe the number of sensors is double up. That's the statistics.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. But evolution basically stays the same. We don't evolve so much faster technology. Our ability to digest data in the same manners of like plain screens, and that scenes of like you're a guard in a building and you see matrix of cameras. Okay, how many cameras can I see at a time and understand something?
Yeah, that's an important point. We have so much data in today's age, but our ability to digest those data needs some catching up to do. LLM and AI is helping us do that, but in other fields that's not text or language based. We need a lot of innovation.
And you need a different way to make that approachable. And AI is one of them, but eventually it will create more data and insights, and people are, they need the raw data and the insights that they're getting.
So I have a lot of demand in this field of digesting big data, like what you're doing, but also what we previously spoke about, drones, for smaller scale operations and more targeted and more effective actions, which is too small for big companies to work on, and there is like a gap in the market for smaller companies to pursue. What would be your advice for people who want to build solutions in this field, with drones and delivering it for usually probably the government?
So I don't know if you catch it in my words, but at the beginning I was saying it was pretty naive solution. I didn't just throw up in there because as a tech guy, my perspective was, okay, that's easy. Like do this integration and throw everything together, that will bring a lot more value. But eventually this needs to meet the business side and actual valuable side. Can I achieve that? It's not just a question of tech. So my advice is, and I was saying, is to focus on something very specific that you solve and start going from there organically. That's exactly what we did. Like how I'm gonna, and especially where you're building a product which is a B2G application. It's hard getting those sales at the beginning. But if you do the first one, it becomes easier. But again, getting the first is always hard. So you need to be very specific in what you do. Stories are good and vision are good for, investors and VCs or whatever.
Yep.
For specific clients that don't have the patience for visions, you want to bring the edge and the value immediately. So that's my 2 cents. Like start focused. That makes sense.
Start from the problem and
just
build stuff that solves that problem.
Don't fall in love in your
Solution.
tech and solution. Yeah, fall
Right.
in love with the problem that you're trying to solve.
That's a common fault of us engineers. We love what we build,
Exactly.
but we're not. There's a saying: engineers love to build, but not to solve. They just want to build stuff, but not necessarily be useful. Any advice for general entrepreneurship? Because obviously you have a lot of experience in that, and you have a unique perspective because you're an engineer turned entrepreneur, just like Elon Musk. This university is a lot of us are business people. I'm computer science, but a lot of our listeners are from business. What would your advice be um, for entrepreneurship?
It's a general question. I'll take something from my own world. When we started, it's not only enough to have a cool product that actually work. You need to make it approachable, especially when you sell augmented reality headsets as part of your solution. We're selling software, but we also need to. Unfortunately, no one's has on its own like a HoloLens 2, for example, for running our app. We had a lot of discussions about our business model. How are we going to attack this field in order to eventually become not just a viable solution, but also a solution in scale? How are you going to monetize this solution to be deployed inside the cloud organization? That's what we're aiming for. And we build our business model accordingly. So it wasn't like a tech question. How do we make it accessible? How do we make it affordable? So it was kind of like there's two steps for our business model, divided. There's the tactical solution that we can bring value immediately, but there's also the long scale solution that after we show the value at the beginning, we need to jump into, inside the organization gets its own data, and it's a painful process. It takes time. So eventually my suggestion here is not only focused on the product side and tech side and the value you bring, it's also a lot of the peripherals. How, in the end, how are we going to sell? And not on how, what are the times you're going to sell? It's also important. It needs to be in a reasonable time frame. Not only, let's go back to the beginning, it's now wartime. And it's easier to defend startups to show traction
Right.
in this wartime. But eventually you want it to stick. And the only way to achieve that is not just by cool technology that actually works, but also with a viable business model, viable peripherals, let's call it like that. And that's I believe, my advice.
Amazing.
Focus on other stuff as well.
Gal, I learned a lot of new things today. I think you're one of my more unique guests. I have a lot of SaaS companies coming here, but you're also an engineer. You have a lot of background in the military, so I love this interview. I had a fun time.
Yep, same.